Okay, welcome back to a very special Wingbacks Well Forward episode where we're going to recap that infamous 2020 Euro final. With me today I have Vrushabh, Shomik and Venkat, who all have mixed feelings about it, myself included too. Shomik, as our resident England fan, or self-proclaimed England fan if you will, how do you feel?
Hold on. What's this self-proclaimed? What's this business? No. Anyway, how do I feel? I feel sad, but that's pretty obvious. But to be honest, I thought when I saw the formation that Gareth Southgate put out there, I wasn't confident. Like, why would you play a back five against the back four? I really just don't understand that. And then looking back on that, just in more in-depth detail, I just feel like with the way. I understand that the back five got the goal, got the goal. But to be honest, I really think that England would have been able to score with the four at the back. I just think that they were so scared of Italy's wings. They decided to play very defensively. And then once they scored, I actually feel like it hurt England more than it helped them because they just sat back and invited just wave after wave of Italian attack. And you just, when you were watching that game, you just felt that a goal is coming from the Azzurri at any stage. And so I was really disappointed in Gareth Southgate's tactics. And eventually he fixed the error and Bukayo Saka came on. And I did feel that the game sort of changed and England were able to open up a little bit more. So I think that kind of proved my point. I was also really disappointed with the penalty shootout, not for the fact that they all missed, but actually for the way in which Gareth Southgate sort of managed the whole situation, bringing Rashford and Sancho on at the last minutes, not giving them any sort of time on the ball, and then obviously allowing a 19-year-old to go up and take that when you've got Sterling and Grealish who are both in their 20s and have had a fair share of penalty taking or big pressure moments. And so that was I felt Italy were the better team. I really do feel like that way, and they were the best team in the comp and they deserved to win. But from an England perspective, it was great to see after so many years of hurt, their first final in 55 years. And I thought that was a really good effort from the Gareth Southgate team. And hopefully, there'll be better tactics in the next big tournament, which is the World Cup in 2022.
Be interesting to see, won't it? Vrushabh, what are your thoughts on the Euro final?
Yeah, so I was just looking back at the game and apart from the first 5 minutes after which England scored, I don't think they were on top for the majority of that game. Even looking back at some of the stats, they had about 30% possession and their pass accuracy was around half of what Italy's was. So if you put two and two together, it shows if you barely have much of the ball and you don't have much pass accuracy, what does that suggest? You're just hoofing it upfield, right? Playing long ball and hoping that Kane will hold up the ball and bring the others into play, which also doesn't make much sense considering Kane likes to link up play from midfield. So it was a bit counterintuitive. In terms of them moving to a back five, didn't really understand that either, because even when they do play a back four, we can all agree it's pretty much a back six anyway, with four defenders and two holding midfielders in front. So when you guys say it's a back five, it's more of a back seven. So I'm expecting three other players to score against a four-man defense. That also really doesn't make much sense. I guess you could say, they did get the goal from it, but after they did get the goal, they did nothing. I think the game plan was to get an early goal and then sit back. It did work for about 67 minutes, I think, until Italy scored. But then after that, once they did score, England sort of went into gear, but they didn't have much clinical edge, and that was probably due to the fact that they were already just defending for the hour preceding to it, so they didn't have any match rhythm. And that's probably when that they could have introduced some subs, when he brought on Saka, but even switch up the wings. And to be honest, if Sterling wasn't going to take a penalty, probably would have taken him off and tried to at least, people who were going to take penalties, get them in match rhythm, like Sancho and Rashford. People could say, that is a big decision to take him off, but that's what the manager's there for, is to make big decisions. It's
just a quick question.
Unfortunate story for England, but probably did deserve to lose over the course of the 2 hours.
Just a quick question for you all, and Vrushabh sort of raised this point. I just wonder, Sterling was England's best player this tournament. There's no question about that. He scored the most goals and he was very involved in a lot of England's attacks. Do you feel like, even though, and Ryan, the question actually might go to you first because you're a City fan. I know Sterling doesn't take a lot of City's penalties, but given the tournament that he had, would you not trust him with a penalty in this instance?
So I was about to raise this question as well. Actually, I think this sort of answer's twofold. So I think firstly, when you look at Sterling, a lot of what he did, yes, he scored goals. Yeah, yes, he was a pretty key player, but he was quite reliant on other players playing really well as well, right? I think it was almost that he was like a cog in a major cog in a very well-oiled machine. And when it comes to pens, I think we've seen time and time again, and this could be completely coincidental, but I don't think it is that. Sterling just doesn't. I don't think he has the confidence to take a pen, that to a decisive pen. I mean, we can see it. He didn't go for the penalty, did he? Right? He could have stood up. He decided not to. So I think there's almost a lack of confidence there. Not being City's starter. I think Sterling, personally for me, I wouldn't even chuck him on as a second striker or even like a sub striker if I had to. I'd keep him on the wing because I don't have a lot of faith in him to finish first time. In saying that, however, would I have rathered Sterling take it over Saka? Absolutely. Experience counts, right? Sterling might not be confident, but thinking about Saka, right? It's his first ever penalty for England. It's his first ever potential, life-changing moment for England, and he's been called up to do it. I think, as someone who's much older, someone who's played for massive clubs, who's made UCL finals, who's won Premier Leagues, FA Cups a lot, you'd think they would have the leadership to step up, right? I almost feel that if I had to choose between Sterling or Saka, I'd pick Sterling in a heartbeat, because even if Sterling missed, all right, that's okay.
Well, also the fact that I feel like, Ryan, and I'll ask you this again. Mm-hmm. Just, do you not think that given the tournament Sterling had, do you not feel like even if you're not the best penalty taker, if you're on good form, you're naturally confident? Does that not play a part in Gareth Southgate's thinking?
You'd think so, but if it did, surely he would have taken stand, wouldn't he? I'd imagine.
If you were Gareth Southgate, and I'll switch to Vrushabh and Venkat now, but if you were Gareth Southgate, and Ryan, just finish off real quick for us, mm-hmm. you put your best players for the penalty spot, no matter what, even if they're not great penalty takers, and Sterling was the best player for England. Even if Sterling doesn't want to take the penalty, I just say, mate, you're our best player. Go take a pen. If we miss, we miss.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, the question I had for you was, why is he so nervous about taking pens? Has he had some bad experience at City? Because nothing's really.
I don't think it's bad experiences at City. I think it's just. I think look, the best example I can give you is the Lyon game. Easy tap in, scoffs it, right? And I think there's been a few times where Sterling has been expected to score and hasn't. Right? And of course, it's not from the spot, but I think it's almost, when we think about City's best players, Sterling comes up there, but when you think about goal scorers, you think Aguero, right? You even think Gabriel Jesus to an extent as well. When you think wingers, you think, all right, Bernardo Silva, right? To an extent, Sterling. I think Sterling's a really good player, but I just think that the fans, and to an extent, I think Pep, and it seems to be here, Southgate as well, just don't have the trust in him to perform under that much pressure. I think if it had to be something, I would have chucked Saka and Rashford first, and then chucked on, your Kanes, potentially Grealish, and to be honest, who else? Maguire as well. I would have chucked him towards the end, but personally for me, I just wouldn't have that faith in Sterling. Wonderful player, but it seems when it comes to pressuring times, where he should have performed, he hasn't.
So Ryan, just real quick on the penalty stats for Raheem Sterling. Mm-hmm. He's missed 3 penalties and scored 2 out of 5.
Well, there you go, right?
So yeah, but interestingly, in his whole career, he's missed 3, right? But the 2 that he scored, one was for England. In a Nations League game, in the 90th minute, he took the penalty. So in 2021, Gareth Southgate put Raheem Sterling as the penalty taker. That just makes it even more baffling that why would you not, for someone who has scored for England in a penalty in the 90th minute, Why would you not?
Do you know what it
Go.
is? Sterling's not a scorer. Like, yes, he's scored, but he's not. His role isn't to score. His role is to provide support for a striker, right? Which is why, as a manager, I'd assume you'd put the striker on first, right? I'll quickly wrap up my point. I won't get your guys' thoughts on Vrushabh and Venkat, but I'd imagine that when it comes to penalty takers, which is why I'm more baffled that Saka got it too. Look, Rashford, he is fair. He's a winger. He's a mid, but he's got a lethal finish. He's got a lethal finish, right? With Sterling, he just isn't that good at shooting. He's not that good at scoring, right? He had a wonderful tournament at the Euros, but when you look back at his whole career, he was sick 2016, 2017, 2018. He's trailed off in the last couple of seasons, right? This was a pretty good season for him, or pretty good tournament for him. But as a scorer, I don't have that faith. I'd be chucking on my strikers and, honestly, at this point, my centre-backs, because they've got power behind it, right? I think in a penalty shootout, in a final against two very tired teams, you don't need to have skill. You need to have power. I guarantee you, if Rashford didn't go for placement and went for power, he would have hit the back of the net as well. Look at Maguire. Slabhead scored because he just powered it through the net. He didn't care where it was going. He just powered it. Right? I think it's those kind of tactics you need to think about as a manager, which is why I'm assuming Sterling never got on. But yeah, Vrushabh, Venkat, I want to get your thoughts on this as well.
Just to play devil's advocate, right? I'm going to go from Southgate's perspective. Say over the week before the final, he saw every player in the squad take a penalty, right? Say in the case that Saka scored 10 out of 10, right, penalties. And obviously you can take the, oh yes, it's a big moment thing and everything. But if Saka scored 10 out of these 10 penalties, surely he becomes one of the five. I don't agree with him being the fifth penalty taker or the decisive penalty taker, but obviously, we don't have the same information that Southgate has, so I'm just playing devil advocate. I don't believe that Saka should be taking a pen. Sterling or Grealish or one of them should be taking it, 100%. I agree with that. But maybe he's just seen something that we haven't. Maybe he's seen Sterling miss 9 out of 10 pens, or something like that.
That's fair. But I think, again, pressure plays a big part. The training ground, who's watching you? You know, your teammates, not, thousands of English fans, mind you, at Wembley as well, so... And against...
Still a question that I think Venkat posed last week. If you had the same five, what was the order that you do it?
Ryan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah,
same
sure.
Five, but different order?
I didn't mention this beforehand, but I would go probably... I'd leave my elderly... I say elderly, but the older players to the end, right? Because, so, for example, I'll probably go Saka. Saka, Rashford, Maguire, Kane, and who am I missing?
Sancho?
Oh, sorry. No, it would be Saka, Sancho, Rashford, Maguire, Kane. That's what I would do for me.
You're really banking on
My bad.
Scoring then, because it might not go to the fourth game.
Look, I'm banking on... Look, I would put the youngsters first because they don't have the pressure of the winning pen. They have the pressure of just scoring, right? If I miss, it's okay. Sancho can do it. Sancho misses, okay. Rashford can do it. Saka, at this one, was like, shit, if I miss, we've lost. It's a different kind of pressure, right? I think Kane can handle that better than Sancho, Rashford, or Saka. And Maguire, just because I know he didn't mean to hit it the place he did, he just went for power. You can see it on the pen too, right? It's just straight power. So I chuck him there.
It's a Hammer technique.
Yeah, for me, I'd do Kane, Maguire. So what he did was correct. But then 3, I'd go Saka, 4, Rashford, and 5, Sancho. I'm pretty sure there's a stat where it says the fourth penalty is the most missed penalty.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I put Rashford on.
Wouldn't you
that.
put Kane? Fourth?
No, I prefer to go with the strongest person first, set the tone.
Shom? Top 5? 5? Yep.
So it's the same 5. So I guess Kane would be number 1. I put Rashford 2nd, Maguire 3rd, put Saka 4th, and Sancho 5th. Reasoning behind it, if you wanted to hear it, was because I feel like the strongest penalty takers should always be at the start, and then you sort of hide your weaker ones, and then you finish off pretty strong. And I thought, Saka was probably the weakest out of all that. So to give him that 3rd spot gives him that protection that you just don't get as your 5th penalty taker. Venkat, what was your order?
I would have gone Rashford, Saka, Maguire, Kane, Sancho, Kane. I just feel like I like having my strongest penalty takers ordered, like kind of spaced, so that you know that you're going to hit one regardless.
Just,
yeah.
It's a bit of a gamble.
Quickly for you all.
It is a gamble. Yeah. Go, Shomik.
Rashford has scored 15 penalties and missed twice. The 2 times that he missed were in the Premier League season just gone. So, in the 1920 season, not the 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Like within 2 games.
Wolves
wasn't it?
Is in 2 consecutive games of the league
Yeah.
as well. And so,
Yeah.
and just real quick as well, Saka and Sancho have both taken penalties for England and both missed. So the one penalty that they had missed before, so Sancho had scored 10, missed 1. The one penalty he'd missed was for England.
Yeah.
And Saka's both penalties he scored at club level, he has never scored a penalty at international level. Even though he's taken one and missed one before this Euro final.
Do you know what game that was at Shomik? Like, was that recent or was that?
It was in the 2018 England under-18 game or something like that.
That's slightly irrelevant, but your point you're trying to make
it was still a major tournament, I believe, for the under-18 game. So
yeah.
I have I guess a question for you guys as well on this too.
it was in the 18-19 season, and it was against the Czech Republic under-18 team.
That's a shootout, or was that a?
It was a shootout. Yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Ryan.
Okay, yeah. The question I sort of had was, when it comes to a penalty as well, or penalties, if you go to a shootout, my thinking is that it's. I think with a shootout, luck does play a pretty big role in it too, right? If the keeper goes the wrong way, look, if Donnarumma had gone the wrong side, Saka would have scored, right? And we would have probably had a very different outlook on how we would order these people, right? Or order the players. I'm almost thinking to an extent that I don't think as a manager, now thinking about it, you really can't prepare for it, right? You don't see how, for example, Donnarumma is in training. You're going to see him in games, and to be fair, he was outstanding throughout the whole tournament. He won Player of the Tournament, didn't he? He did, right? Donnarumma, yeah. So it's almost telling me like that you could have whatever order you want. You know, realistically, luck does play a factor in it as well. And so, whilst I would probably say that experience would count to handle pressure and stuff, you really can't prepare for something like this. You know, for example,
realistically, when you take a pen, there's only 2 places that you can put it where the keeper can't reach, which is side netting or top corner. Apart from that, it's just luck of the draw.
Exactly.
Correct side.
Yeah.
100%, right? And of course, if you've got players like Saka or, I mean, I want to say Saka and Maguire, who are natural shooters to begin with, I think it's quite a difficult thing to expect that they are going to just send it top spins or, you know, like outside of the keeper's fingertips, inside netting as well. So
no, look at the people who scored, right? Kane side netting, Maguire top corner.
Well, there you go, right? So to me, it's almost sounding like it is very unlucky for England, right? I don't think it was a tactical error to an extent putting Saka on, but I almost feel like, you know, anyone's could have been saved, right? If Kane's had got saved, I wouldn't have put Kane last. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, like the thing is that Kane's a proven Premier League penalty taker. So if he does miss, you're like, well, I understand why Southgate has put him there. What I don't understand is that I know Sterling has taken 5 penalties and missed 3 of them. Saka's only taken 3 penalties. I would 100% rather take a person who's taken 5 penalties in their career over someone who's taken 3.
How many has Saka scored though?
Saka scored 2 out of 3. But I mean, like,
but experience has to play the part.
That's the thing.
That's the thing, right? You've been saying for you know, experience does play a part in it, and I completely agree with you. I think you're bang on the money, and so that's why, you know, Sterling's played in the UCL final. He's played in crunch Premier League matches. That big match experience, even if he's not your ideal scorer, I think his goal tally is quite prominent though. Like I think his goal record is quite fantastic for a winger. So. I think, you know, he might not be a natural born number 9, but, you know, he's still a
he doesn't
very,
come up
very
in big
clinical
situations. That's what I'm saying. Is like when we need him, he hasn't.
You're saying that, but he missed 1 chance against Leon. I can also think of thousands of times, or not thousands, but I can also think of like 20 times, 15 times where Sterling's provided a magical run or a goal.
No.
One City a game.
100%. I think it's more his decision making isn't that good. Look at the UCL final where he could have passed, he decided not to. So my thinking as a penalty, he's going to be like, I don't know. Like for example, Rashford's decision to take that pen by running up like I don't know, half Pogba, half I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, right? I think that was a really stupid decision. My thinking is Sterling would probably overthink it, and before you know it, he's missed as well. That's my thinking, is that he's a great player, but just doesn't make decisions that should be made when... I don't know. Look, it's up for debate, but personally for me, I would, if I could have chosen, it would have been Grealish. 100% over Sterling. Right? Why Grealish wasn't put on for pens? That's a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah,
but he is still. 5. I don't know. I would have still trusted Grealish though.
But I feel like the thing is that I go back to my original question to you guys, Venkat and Vrushabh. I'll throw it to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Form players are more confident on the ball. I 100% have always been a big believer of this. If you are playing on form, if you feel good about your game, there are a lot of people who believe that they're unstoppable in that moment because you've had a great tournament. Do you think that, given Rashford and Sancho's tournament, should they have even taken pens?
I think Rashford still should have taken one just because you have proven experience. You don't.
Fine.
That would be an issue. Sancho, maybe not, but I think that's just a lack of options more than anything.
But don't.
Yeah, who else is there?
Well, like if I was Gareth Southgate, here's what my order would have been, and this might be controversial, but it would have been Harry Maguire, Harry Kane, 2 Harrys. I would have honestly put Sterling, of course. I would have put Grealish, and my surprise pick would have been Luke Shaw.
I was gonna say, Shaw would have been one as well. Dude, defenders can take pens. They can. And
see, the thing is, defenders don't think about where they... You look at David Luiz's penalty, he just runs up and goes, bang! Like, no one's stopping that.
Yeah, but as much as Vrushabh and I love Luke Shaw, we both know we can't take a pen. Or if he can, he's very poor at one. David Luiz is a very special case. David Luiz is not a defender. He's more of a midfielder.
He's like a midfielder.
You need to read the game. 120 minutes after the whole thing, so everyone's been running around. They're tired. You can afford to put people who have power because Donnarumma's had an intense 120 minutes.
No, Ryan, by that logic, would you have made Calvert-Lewin take a pen?
Maybe not Calvert-Lewin. I would have taken Shaw because he scored.
I think Vrushabh and I would both say that.
Maybe not Luke Shaw, but I feel like those 4, Kane, Maguire, Grealish, Sterling, they all had good tournaments. And the question is, do you guys believe that if you had a good tournament, you should be the one to step up because you played a direct role in getting England to the final? So do you not think that players who play on their best, who had the best form in the game, shouldn't they be taking the penalties?
Yeah, but I do think that
I don't.
You have to play to your strengths. If you know one penalty taker is scoring more than the other, then obviously you back them. It's like if you were looking at this tournament, you'd say, okay, let's go with what you were saying, Shomik. If you're saying you go by form, Rashford obviously does not take a pen. Yeah, I think we all agree on that. If Rashford does not take a pen, who is probably one of the best penalty takers in the England squad, scored in the big games, scored to win multiple games, then you're kind of, I guess, I don't know.
Okay, put Rashford in there as as an automatic lock. Put Rashford as an automatic lock. I think even then, I would have 100% played my best players on the penalty spot for the players that had played the best for England in that tournament.
No, I think what Ryan's trying to say, I'll let him speak, but I think what he's trying to talk about is like some players' penalties are just their like Achilles heel. I don't know, a good example from Ryan's perspective is probably Mahrez. I think we'd all say he's a great player, but in terms of taking a penalty, he's probably not the first pick. But Shomik, I'll give you a basketball example. Would you let Giannis take a free throw?
Based on game 6, baby, yeah, I would. But
yeah, but like, you know what I mean? He's a great player.
That's his Achilles heel.
I think.
Look, Ryan, I completely get your point. My flip side to that is that I'm a big believer in how players sort of carry their form. And I'm a big believer in how form plays a part in confidence. You look at Sterling. You look at Sterling's season. He had arguably his worst season in 5-6 years. Agreed?
100%.
He had a poor 45 minutes in the Croatia game. He scored in the 60th or late on in the second half, and his tournament just took off from there. Now, I'm not saying that, confidence has played an entire factor, but I certainly do believe that's played a big factor in Sterling being such a force in the England team. And
But
so
he's been a force 100%. I think football, again, though, is a team sport. If you can have the best tournament ever, but if you know that someone else can take penalties better than you can, I would still pick them. Confidence is one thing for sure, that's true. But it's confidence in your position. Like, for example, Calvert-Lewin.
let's just settle this right now. Let me call Raz up. Let's just get him on the phone.
Big Raph in the line as well.
No, but honestly, if you were Sterling, how can you live with yourself saying, "Oh yeah, let this 19-year-old"?
Well, no, look.
Also think of the fact that he might have rejected the pen. Southgate was like, "Can you take a pen?"
I mean, we'll never know. We'll never know, right? But my thinking is, I would have preferred him to take it over Saka for sure.
Well,
but
I don't know if you guys heard this, but Grealish said on the press that he said he wanted to take, and Southgate. So that kind of puts all the blame on Southgate almost. That why did you not pick a better? But in Southgate's defence, Grealish is more of a realistic substitute for Saka. Sterling over Sancho, I still would have probably backed Sancho. So I think from Southgate's perspective, he probably should have swapped out one of Sancho and Saka.
Saka, 100%.
Saka, 100%.
Yeah,
Saka
100%
Should have been
Saka.
nowhere near.
Yeah, nowhere near. So I understand that. Like I get why people have said, Jack Grealish should have taken a pen, and if he wanted to, I just don't understand it. And I think that shows that Southgate was really pressing for Saka to take the penalty, and I just really don't understand why. But moving on from the penalty debacle, Vrushabh, Venkat, what were your thoughts on? Oh, Venkat, what were your overall thoughts on the game?
Just glad that England lost. I don't know. Just joking, Shomik. No, I'm not really.
Shomik has left the
it's
chat.
great. It was a strange game, and I think we actually recorded this once already, and we already mentioned a couple of points, but we also did say that scoring in the 5th minute did not really help.
Was it
75
like
minutes.
second minute or something?
Second.
Second minute, my bad.
Yeah, it was
second.
ridiculously early on. Yeah.
Have you guys heard a stat that England have only won once in a major tournament after scoring in the first 4 minutes? Do you know when that
It's
game
all part
was?
of the plan, mate.
Was it 1966?
No, do you know when that was? Ukraine.
Oh, I mean,
England had never won previously scoring that early in a game.
that is a bit of an outlier, though. I think Ukraine making it to the
Yeah, I know.
quarterfinals
That's
alone.
because,
was
right.
to be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
just look, we've made the top 8. That's what matters. We've beaten Russia. Mate, no, what do you mean? No, Conor Plianka. But no, Venkat, continue.
Yeah, but we all mentioned how, I think, in the initial recording that scoring the second minute did not really help. It really, Southgate just went, all right, we scored, let's shut everything down. But the way this Italy team play, they're going to score another. And you're going to push England. So I don't know what the plan... It didn't seem like a plan was there after they scored. I felt like the initial plan was, okay, see what you can do in the first 20 minutes, and then just hope, right? That's kind of what the initial plan felt like, and then they scored in the second minute, and then they just lost all sense of it.
just a quick question for Venkat, actually. Luca mentioned this last week on the podcast, for those who listen. I don't think we have any weekly listeners. But,
we actually do, mate. We actually do. You'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, it's us 4.
Yeah, that's right. So Luca mentioned this last week that he believed that England hadn't really come up against a quality opposition.
Oh, I still do believe that.
Do you think the Southgate's decision to go to a back 5 was the fact that he also believed that he hadn't come up against a quality opposition?
Oof. I do think the back five was, if we get a France or whatever. I think that was the initial plan, and that's why you didn't see the back five till we faced Germany, till you got to the final against Italy. It was a plan against the Italy's, the France, the Germany.
The back five made more sense against the Germans because the
Germans
Germans
they were playing.
they matched up. So that's why I understood against the Germans. I just feel that in my gut feeling, I have a thing that I feel like Southgate had sort of a similar thought process that I actually think that Italy are the best team in the tournament, and we haven't faced anyone close to the quality of Italy, and that's why I'm going to go super defensive.
Yeah, the only reason you go to a back five if you don't have to is because you want to defend, right? You want defensive structure, but you don't want to sacrifice yourself going forward. Obviously, Vrushabh and I, we know all about it because back three has got us multiple wins against City, and the reason why we do play the back three against City is because we don't want to we want to concede the ball. We don't want to play with the ball, but we want to make sure that we're defensively solid and then we go forward as well, so we can play on the counter. So I don't think the tactic was wrong. Going to the back three wasn't the wrong thing to do, but it was. I think the game was really decided in that 78, the second minute to 80th minute, and if anything, he should have gone for the second. Like he should have gone for the second, kind of like that crush your throat mentality. I don't know. Am I getting it mixed up? Yeah. Foot on your throat. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go. Foot on your throat mentality.
Crush your throat.
That's a new one.
I like.
But yeah, that should have been the mentality. I think if you score a second, I don't see Italy coming back at
But
home.
that's the difference between the killer teams of international football gone by.
Yeah.
When Spain got a goal, they didn't just sit back. They demolished Italy in the final 4-0. Like, when's that ever going to happen again?
I think Southgate
France
saw...
and Argentina played a 4-3 amazing quarterfinal.
Even still, Shomik, I think France, they did go down that 1-0 path, and it worked for them because, in all honesty, they just looked too good for every other team back in 2018.
I feel like France's 1-0 approach kind of. I think they still, even though they had that 1-0 mentality.
Yeah.
Not talking about this Euro tournament, but definitely in the 2018 World Cup, I definitely feel that even if France had that 1-0 mentality, they still went after the ball and they still tried to hit on the counter-attack and still tried to score. Obviously, Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane, a bit of a quality difference, and pace difference more so importantly. But it still kind of shows to me that the killer teams have the confidence of going after the win, going for the jugular. And that's what this England team sort of lacked. Sit back, score one, sit back.
Yeah.
And
100%.
And it's that sort of frustrating tactics that Southgate's using that got him to the final, understandable. But then when you get to the final, why do you change? Why do you... I think that's ultimately what cost England the final, and I'll just quickly finish on this. And Ryan's gonna not like me for saying this, but I feel like it was a pet.
No, I mean, he overthought it way too much, dude. I honestly feel that.
Sorry, Ryan. Pep's one of the greatest managers, and I don't think he's a fraud.
No, but it's true. It's true. Look at Southgate for a second, right? You're completely right in saying that in this final, England scored in the first 2 minutes. Why is he not saying to them, all right, you've scored now, keep on going? The moment they say, all right, we've scored, we're going to stay back. Italy are like, F that. Look at our freaking team, we're going to go harder. They did. 20 shots, 6 on target.
The difference is, though, right, and this is the thing. You look at the UCL final, Ryan, again, I'm really not trying to do this to you deliberately.
Usually just a slip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue from a Liverpool fan. But yes, continue.
that's out of bang out of nah. Look, I genuinely feel though that in that UCL final, the quality of defenders that Chelsea had pale in comparison, and in the way they sort of set up. They're used to playing that back five even against back fours, so they knew how to play the system. You know, I just feel like with that sort of those two games, you know, Chelsea score, break it open, and then sort of sit back. but they sat back in the right way. They still tried to hit City on the counter-attack. You know, all throughout the game, Chelsea didn't stop hitting them on the counter-attack. Pulisic had a great chance. I feel like someone else had a great chance, but
Foden.
No, from a Chelsea perspective, on the counter-attack. So even Werner's not going to score. So even on the counter-attack, Chelsea's trying to hit. I didn't see one sort of progressive hit them on the counter, running in with Sterling and Saka, like one or whoever, or Mount. Like, they just showed a lackluster sort of attacking counter-attack. And I feel ultimately that's what cost England the game.
I agree with that. I think it was just England weren't looking to win from the second minute to the 90th minute onwards. And
just to
right.
Just to quickly add, I mean, just to sort of wrap this up as well, I suppose, I think on a final note, I think we can all agree that for the whole 90 minutes, minus the first two, Italy dominated.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
100%.
I think Southgate realised he had a problem in extra time, and that's when
Ryan,
he was
just
like...
real quick, continue on with this one. I would say that Italy dominated from minute 2 to minute 60 until the goal came. I did feel the game slightly shifted in a more balanced approach once Saka came on. It took 10 minutes to adjust, but I agree with your point that Italy dominated, but once Saka did make that change, you could see the balance sort of slightly...
Decent first half. I think maybe until at least 30 minutes. I don't think they were like dreadful.
No. I guess I should rephrase the question as I think Italy were more dominant than England
100%.
Until they scored, and that's when England were like, okay, we've got a problem here, right? And of course, it got taken all the way till extra time. Now, in extra time, you could see England are trying really hard now to score, right? Until about, I'd say, the second half of extra time. That's when I'm like, okay, they're going to try and take this to pens. Right? Now, I know on the last podcast we had, if you guys have seen it, I disagree with Luca on this, but I've watched it back and I'm like, he's actually got a point that England were like, look, we either score here or we can't concede. They've taken a defensive option because if you look at that last 15 minutes, England aren't doing much, right? Italy is calling the shots. You go to penalties and that's obviously where Italy win it. I'm almost feeling here, I think Southgate knew they had either lost or gone to pens. I think in just about the 100th minute, 5 minutes before the first half of extra time was over. That's when you can tell.
You can just see with the subs though as well, Ryan. Like,
well, no, 100%.
You can see like Mancini's use of substitutions was to go in and try and win the game. Southgate just to try and take it to pens and win.
100%. And I think also Mancini had faith that his players who were currently on could take penalties in that shootout. You don't see another manager bringing on two people in the 119th minute. Yeah, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's almost as if, I think, honestly, as a manager, and this is Southgate's fault, his man management for that game and his tactics, I think he did a Pep. You're right. He overthought it. As a City fan, I can resonate with this. In a final, he's overthought it. He's thought we can win after scoring, and here you are. Italy didn't stop. They were down, but they kept on going. They're now 1-0. They're not stopping. They're going.
Ryan, I know you love your stats. I've got another stat for you. I read this on the many social media pages around on football. Mancini is a player and manager. Won Sampdoria's only Scudetto. Broke Lazio's 26-year title drought. Broke Inter's 17-year title drought. Broke Man City's 44-year title drought.
How can we ever forget?
Italy's 53-year Euro drought. He knows how to change teams and winning ways, and
he's a tournament specialist.
I think a lot of people are focused on penalty shootout and Gareth Southgate's poor tactics, but I think you got to give some enormous kudos to Mancini. He's transformed this Italy team, and
100%.
And I know we focused on an England perspective, but credit where credit's due. The Azzurri, they're back in force, and a lot of press was saying, Chiellini, Bonucci too old. They proved them all wrong, and they brought it to Rome. It didn't come home. So
absolutely.
I think that's where we'll wrap up for this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll end on. I guess. Yeah, we'll end on this. I think Mancini has proven himself to be a tournament specialist. If you're coming up against Mancini, you want to play a back five just because you're scared, right? It's as simple as that, right? But look, thanks for joining us on this shorter episode, or shorter podcast, I should say, from Wingbacks Well Forward. We will catch you very soon with some interesting transfer news and hopefully our predictions of the next top 4 EPL candidates. Until then, stay safe and we'll catch you next time.